On today's video, we have 13 very common mistakes that we see first-time home buyers and really just home buyers in general make, and we don't want you to make these mistakes, so stick around. How's it going, my friends? My name is Jesse Lynch, and I work with the hardest working real estate team in the game. We are called Welcome to Denver, and you can check out our website, welcometodenver.co. But this YouTube channel is all about helping you find a place to call home here in the Denver metro area on the Front Range in Colorado. And that's whether you're buying a house for the first time or relocating here from a different city, state, country, or planet. First-time home buyers, relocations, that's what we do, and that's what we do better than anybody else. So if either of those things appeal to you, do us both a favor, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified, give the video a thumbs up, and say hey in the comments. We'd appreciate that very much. Today's video, more a first-time home buyer video, but really just a home buyer in general. So again, if you're a first-time home buyer or you're coming here from somewhere else, then we just implore you to get a hold of us and we'll absolutely crush it for you. And we will, make life as easy as possible on you in the home buying process. So go to our website, welcometodenver.co, or shoot us an email directly at info@welcometodenver.co. They both lead to the same spot. And get a hold of us. We'll crush it for you, and we'll get you headed in the right direction. And if it's a little too early for you to reach out, for one, again, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified. And second, go ahead and follow us on Instagram at welcometodenver.co. You can hang out with us for a while there until you're ready to go and make things official. But today's video, we're talking 13 common mistakes of first-time home buyers, rookie mistakes that a lot of people make, and just want to make sure that you're not making those mistakes. So let's dive into it. Okay, first of all, first mistake, I'm just going to say, is choosing not to learn. And yeah, it's a choice, right? It's very important. This is a big purchase, probably the biggest purchase of your life thus far. And so, some people just decide, they don't try to learn. They just, I don't know, how do I do this? So good for y'all. Here you are, you're watching videos about being a first-time home buyer. Good for you. And yeah, that's number one, just choosing not to learn. But hey, you're already on the right track because here you are. So I'm going to say that one doesn't apply to you. Second is basically, this might sound harsh, but it's trusting Zillow, right? And that's not to say that Zillow doesn't have some value, because Zillow undeniably has some value. It's a useful search tool, right? But it is not that accurate. And the biggest reason that it's a bummer or it's a mistake to trust it is, for one, it gives you a false sense of what the market is like. Zillow has a tendency to leave things on, as active listings for longer than they're active listings. Where on the MLS, it's reflected as this home is contingent or is pending. Basically, this home has changed status from active as a home that you can see and potentially put an offer on to under contract. And they're very slow to update that, right? And it's not just Zillow, but Zillow, I would say, is maybe the worst actor in this regard. So just fully trusting Zillow, and as a result, you have a sort of a skewed notion of what the market is like and how long houses sit on the market. That's the big one. Is it just gives you a misrepresentation of how the market is behaving. But then beyond that, you're looking at a home where you're like, ooh, this one is sweet. It's been on the market how long? Holy cow, we love it. But it's actually been under contract for days, right? So that, very annoying. And just a little sneak peek. I'm going to peel back the curtains for why does Zillow do that? Why would they do that, right? Maybe a little bit of money. Yeah, it's because basically, if you go to Zillow, and this is not only Zillow, it's truly owns Zillow. Realtor.com has similar behaviors. Redfin has similar behaviors. So most of these like public searches that are tied to the MLS, but they're not actually the MLS, they act in similar ways. But ultimately, you go to Zillow and you find a house and you're like, wow, that house is cool. There's a contact agent button, right? that agent, well, sometimes it's like 3 names pop up. That agent is pretty much never the agent who's actually listing the home, right? That agent is just an agent who paid to be there, right? They just paid to be the name. And which, I mean, okay, on the one hand, that's just a way to market, and that's like a way for agents to get buyers. So I'm not trying to like hate on real estate agents who do that. It's a effective way to gain clients. And okay, but as a client, it feels a little dirty, doesn't it? It feels like a little misrepresenty. Like you're thinking, oh, let me talk to this agent with this listing. Well, it's not. It almost never is. And not only that, but very often the home isn't actually even for sale anymore, or it is for sale, but it's under contract. So it's not really available for you to make an offer. And the reason that they take longer sorry, I'm diving in, but the reason that they take longer to update it is because the longer a home is listed as active, the more likely you or whoever is to click contact agent. And Zillow gets paid every time you click contact agent, right? Because some agent is paying to get that click. So they're very quick to update. Here's kind of how you know the game is. They're very, very quick to update when a home gets listed to the MLS. Very quick. They're very slow to update when the status changes. Wonder why? All right, I'll let you mull that over. But ultimately, error 2 is just fully trusting Zillow. And that's not to say that you can't use Zillow throughout the search. And certainly as you're window shopping early on, yeah, totally cool. Once it gets real, like the email list is going to be a much more effective and like accurate way to get listings. But still, Zillow has some value, but just don't fall in love with a house. Always if you go, hey, I like this, send it over and be like, is this house still available? Okay. Don't begin designing and decorating the home yet in your head until you verified that it is in fact still an available listing. Okay. Copy that. Mistake number 3 is basically, it's not always a mistake, but, and I'm not trying to say like, oh, you could never pull this off and it would never work, but is thinking that working with the listing agent is going to benefit you greatly in some way. So seeking out, I've literally dealt with people who they don't want to work with an agent, which is fine, but they only are going to reach out to the listing agent of listings that come up. And by the way, they're looking at Zillow or something like that. So a home comes on the market on Zillow. They find out who the listing agent is. They contact them directly, thinking that they're somehow going to get a better deal. But first of all, it's not even legal in every state, right? So keep that in mind. I wonder why. But part of it is there's a conflict of interest. It's sort of like a dual agency. Basically, there's a conflict of interest. You're representing 2 parties who are sort of have conflicting goals. The buyer wants to get the best deal for them. The seller wants to get the best price for them. So it's a bit of a conflict. And yeah, just thinking that that's going to be how you get a sweet deal because you're going to convince the listing agent to take a lower commission or something like that. Maybe in a real like buyer's market, right, where all the power is in the buyer's hand, maybe that could be, that actually could happen. But certainly in today's market, I just don't see it happening. And if it did, like, let's say you could convince a listing agent to prefer your offer or to, get your offer accepted, because then the listing agent could potentially get both the listing commission and the buy side commission. Well, then you're potentially working with somebody who's not really operating on the best behalf of the seller. So then are they really going to be operating on the best behalf of you? Can they even, right? So, okay, that's kind of a weird one. But for sure, some people think that I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do the legwork and I'm going to get a sweet deal. Maybe it can be done, but I would say it's not super likely, and it might get you into, I don't know, maybe kind of a yucky spot. Yeah? Okay. Error number 4, and I would say this is specifically for couples, okay, would be not having very important conversations, before you start looking at homes. Like, what do you want out of a house? Is 3 bedrooms enough? Is 2 bathrooms enough? Maybe. Do you need a walk-in closet? Are you fine with no walk-in closet? Is a fenced yard a must? Right? Having these very important conversations about, like, basically, here's my wants, here's your wants. Where do we overlap? Right? And what are absolute musts? And what's the difference between a need and a want? And what can you be flexible on? Right? And maybe potentially also too, what are absolute will not haves? Because there definitely should, probably will be some of that. But yeah, those conversations are very important to have. And I would implore you to have those, sooner than later. Obviously, we're not going to be mad at you if you reach out before you've had those. But it's smart. If you're watching this, go, stop this video after it's done, watch it all the way and like and subscribe, and then have that conversation. Plus it's fun, what do we need? What does our house look like in your head? That will be very important. And you might realize that one doesn't care that much. That is also a thing that happens. And then different side of the same coin would be the mistake number 5, which is just not being flexible at all. Having very, very rigid guidelines down to the, cabinet color. And potentially if you have a lot of money, if you have a rockin' budget, then okay. Then you can have those very rigid ideas of what the house is going to be, because you can pay for it and you can afford, to do that. And certainly if you have a long timeline or a flexible timeline and a ton of money, then yeah, you can be sort of rigid in those, must-haves. But most first-time home buyers do not have, the luxury of all the money and all the time. So being somewhat flexible and sort of also sort of being imaginative, right? Sort of put your creative hat on as you look at these houses, right? And kind of see what you can do. That said, for sure, some people are like, I don't want to do any work. I don't have time. I don't have the abilities. I don't care to learn the abilities. I make good money in my job. It's not worth my time. Okay, that's cool. Those things can be important to know, I'm not going to do that. But, I would still say having some degree of flexibility will be helpful to you. And mistake number 6 is basically, this is something you hear investors say all the time. And I don't know, which is basically just waiting. We're going to wait for the market to drop or to crash or something like that. People have been saying that for a long time. People have been saying that since 2015. The market can't keep going up. There's no way it can keep going up. Oh yeah? If you bought in 2015, you look like a freaking genius right now, especially as an investor. But yeah, so this idea of I'm going to wait for the market to crash. Okay, then you're just going to be waiting. There's a very good chance that you're just going to be waiting and waiting and waiting, and also missing out on appreciation. And there's a chance that when the market drops, it doesn't drop all the way down to where you are right now. So just that idea. And in the meantime, by the way, you're paying rent and you're paying somebody else's mortgage. And yeah, to what end, right? So that whole idea of just waiting for the market to crash, that's not the move, in my opinion. There's actually a quote that I really enjoy, which is, even if you're on the right track, which, the track to home ownership, you're still going to get hit if all you do is just sit there, right? So you're on the track to home ownership. If you just sit there, then you're going to get hit. So what are you doing? Either you're going to do it or you're not. And that's not to say that you should jump into things and not be measured, but this idea of it's just right around the corner. Okay, people have literally been saying that for 7 years. So yeah. Also, when people say things like the market can't continue to go up, I like to say, oh yeah, tell that to Manhattan, it can and it will, tell it to San Francisco, those prices continue to rise. So it can and it will continue to rise. And that actually leads to error number 7 very, very well, which is listening, and no shade. I'm not throwing any shade or, no disrespect intended, but listening to family, friends, and HGTV, right? Not to say that your parents or your friends don't know, have some helpful information, but the idea that they are fully attuned to the market or the behavior of the market can really get you, it can be a major disservice. We have helped people, I feel bad, but we have helped people who, they have an overbearing parent or something like that, who, is, oh, they know how the market behaves and they know how to do this. And okay, that's cool. Like, I'm not going to step on, Papa's toes or anything like that. But it makes their purchase a nightmare. And it takes so much longer than it needs to. I've had people take, I would say an extra 6 months or more because, they have somebody making sure they don't get ripped off. And then in 6 months, home prices went up by 5%, in 2020 or 2021. So, what is that a good deal by saving, by not offering $5,000 more or $10,000 more to get the offer accepted, and now home prices went up by 5% in that amount of time? Are you actually serving yourself by, listening to that? I don't know. Just be careful with that. And then certainly HGTV. No, I enjoy those shows, for the record. I think they're fun, but they are certainly not documentarian when it comes to numbers, right? Or understanding how the market works or how buying a home happens. This idea that you can go look at 3 and I'll take that one. That does not, that is not how it works. I don't know exactly how they do that, but that is trickery. I think actually how it works is they get one under contract first. And then they go look at these other 2, and then they go, which one will it be? Well, probably the one you already have under contract. No shade. Big fan, fixer-upper, hometown. I like that stuff, so what are you going to do? Mistake number 8 is falling in love fully with a house. That's just not a good idea. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. It is just not a good idea to fall madly in love with a house that you do not have yet. And I would say even more, falling in love with a home that's just listed on Zillow that you have not yet confirmed is actually a viable listing, because very often it is not. So that is a bummer, and I want you to avoid it. So just in general, falling in love with a home, even if you get it, I would say be careful, because you might get it under contract and then you'll have inspection, and you don't want to be too emotionally attached to the home and dealing with a bad inspection. It happens. Don't get me wrong. It happens. It will possibly happen to you, but you want to be as measured as possible. So I would say, try to keep some kind of an emotional wall up as much as possible. Obviously it's difficult because it's cool. It's a fun thing. And an important purchase. So keep a wall up to the best of your ability. And then mistake number 9, I'm like running out of 9, is basically sleeping on it, right? And that's not always a mistake. Being measured isn't the worst thing in the world. Sometimes you have time to sleep on it, but not always the case. In this market, things are happening. I've helped somebody who on the first day of looking, they found a home that they really liked, and it was the first day she looked, and she thought, is it crazy to make an offer on this house? It's the first, it was actually the 3rd home she looked at. And she thought, is this silly for me to make an offer already? But the truth is, she had already done so much research into what she likes from a home on the likes of Zillow and what, just looking at homes online, that she had a pretty good idea of what she was looking for. And this house was actually a very sound house, and it really did the trick for her. She ended up buying it. And in the process, throughout escrow, basically from under contract to close, she said she looked at every new listing that came up, and none of them she liked as much as the house that she got under contract. So the idea of her sleeping on it, if somebody else had gotten it, that would have been the most ideal house for the next many months, 2 months or so to come. So, in general, sleeping on it. If you are really hesitant, I would say it's probably not for you, but if you're just afraid because it's scary, I would say probably try, I would rather you get it, I think, than have you not and regret it for forever, Mistake number 10 is thinking that asking price or list price is actually what the sellers want. That is just not how it works. List price is basically some sort of a calculation that the sellers and the listing agent came up with as a marketing strategy, right? It's a starting point of an auction in a lot of markets. In a particularly seller's market, it's basically the starting price of an auction. So this idea of like, that list price, well, so that's what the sellers are asking this, they want this. That's not how it works. They want as much money as they can get, right? That's the end of it. That's all. The sellers want as much money as they can get. So, just act accordingly, and obviously we'll help you, navigate through getting offers accepted. But just from a psychological standpoint, getting too hooked on what the list price is, I would say, right? Mistake number 11, okay, I'm done with the hands, is basically just not offering enough on a home that they truly love, right? Sort of kneecapping themselves with an extra 5K or 10K when it's not going to move the needle that much. And generally, I am big on, and I'm going to touch on this on the next one, but I don't think you should spend too much for yourself. But being too guarded with another $5,000 or $10,000 when the home is within your budget, it's not a very good idea. You're gonna you're kind of in for some pain if you just won't go a little bit. You're afraid you're gonna overpay, and to some degree you have to overpay by a little bit over the next person, otherwise you don't get it, right? Like, does somebody who wins on an auction think I overpaid because they beat somebody by X dollars? Well, no, they had to beat them to win, right? So that's just another sort of mental part of it, is just not going for it when it is in fact the right house and the price actually makes sense for them, which leads to my last mistake, which is convincing themselves to pay too much, to pay more than their budget actually allows. If they've decided that a certain purchase price and certain monthly payment is comfortable, then they convince themselves, well, I can just stop doing this and this and this, and then we can afford it. But then they're house poor, and that's generally not something I would ever recommend. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to have a house that you love, but I also don't want you to be overpaying for any home. That makes sense? I hope so. And then one last little bonus mistake that people are making is not getting a hold of us. I'm just kidding. Obviously, there are plenty of good agents out there, but we would absolutely be thrilled if you reach out to us and let us just prove just how good we are. You can go to our website, welcometodenver.co. We have a contact form there. Fill that out. Super easy, and then we'll get back in touch with you. Or you can shoot us an email directly at info@welcometodenver.co. They both lead to the same spot, which is the best real estate team in the biz. And thanks for watching. As always, if you have not done so yet, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified so you can see every video we do like this, or the immersive virtual tour, kind of, what's it like in the Denver area. I'd be honored, I'd be thrilled if you'd subscribe to the channel. And thanks for hanging out. We will see you in the next one. Leave a comment down below. I don't know, whatever you want this time. Okay, see you guys.